You signed up for that, homie. Today, I'm going to do a thorough breakdown of the true politics along racial lines, how those different racial groups function, generally speaking. We're going to do a deep dive into white politics at the United States penitentiary level. Because I've touched on it briefly in other videos, but today we're going to do a deep dive because I want my viewing audience and other YouTube creators potentially to know that when I speak, I'm keeping it real. Number one, it's the truth. Um, and number two, and just as importantly, I actually know what I'm talking about. So not only am I telling the truth, I'm telling the truth from the proper perspective of the truth as it actually happened. Now, what we'll do is we'll start with Mexicans, Mexican Americans, undocumented Mexicans, etc. And I don't use the word Mexicans as like derogatory. I use it because of the country called Mexico and people from Mexico. It's called Mexicans. That's it. It's just an identifying type of thing. But in the United States penitentiary, there is no such thing as an independent Mexican. It just doesn't happen. Either they're going to either roll with that's on their politics, not because I'm dictating nothing to it. I'm telling you the way they carry their race in the United States penitentiary. Every single one of them is going to be in some kind of group or organization. So and the reason why, I mean, it's understandable, is it gives like a chain of command to potentially work things out before it over escalates or something. So whatever reason they got, that's the way they run it. And so if they're not a Sereno or a Southerner, or if they're not a Latino or another Northerner or Texas, whatever, they're all going to be basically officially clicked up. Now, they're like what you might say is an independent, as what a white would call an independent. Nah, it's not even a right accurate representation. But let's say that you were just a regular a Mexican guy. You know, you're an American of Mexican descent, and something happens and you find yourself in the United States penitentiary, okay? And let's say you're from a very rural area of New Hampshire, for example. I mean, I'm sure you get Mexican people who live in New Hampshire or something, you know what I mean? And you grew up in some rural area of Maine or New Hampshire. So, I mean, yeah, you could say, yeah, you're Mexican descent, but for all practical purposes, you grew up in snowflake land in New Hampshire. So your culture, okay, you don't fit in with this group or that group. You may find yourself in a position where your best bet would be to run with the Paisas. That's really I would say Paisas are probably the coolest out the whole lot. And there's thousands of them. There's thousands of them. Most of their members are like people who are here in the country illegally, or those type of things, or people who get caught for illegal re-entry, or smuggling, because a lot of these people in rural areas of Mexico, they don't really think of a key of cocaine as that big of a deal. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they got laws against it and they can go to jail, but it's kind of like weed is. I mean, up here, I mean, when you get in those canyon mountain countries down in Mexico, that's everywhere. That's what they do. So, you say some immigrant, hey, man, take these keys of coke over there across the border and deliver them here, and you're good, whatever happens. So a lot of these people get busted. They end up in federal prison. And because they're not a part of any kind of an American Mexican clique or crew, they kind of are like what they call paisas. Now, paisas are some of the most ingenious. They have every kind of hustle, candy making, you name it. Now, that is not to say a lot of them are tough dudes now. Just because you quote unquote a boulder jumper, that don't mean you ain't a good dude or cool dude or a tough dude. It just means that's what it is. So that's pretty much the way the Mexican Americans in the United States penitentiary is going to carry their outfit. There's no such thing as quote unquote independent Mexicans. They're going to all roll with somebody. And that's just the way it is. I did 10 years in the feds. But hey, them Paisas, man, are very ingenious dudes, man. I mean, they can do they're like basically the rednecks of Mexico. Like they know how to fly planes, they know how to smoke drugs, they know how to cut knives out of bunks, they know how to make all kind of arts and crafts, candy. I've seen them even walking around on the yard, man, with a bottle with coffee in it, and they selling shots of coffee for stamps on the yard. So really, that'd probably be your best bet if you just want to stay out of the way and try to make some money. And they're deep. Nobody messes with them, one, because they're actually a pretty cool. I always got along good with them guys because they just want to make money and do wheels and deals and stuff like that. If you're a straight shooter, you ain't probably going to have no problems with them guys, even though they outnumber everybody. Nobody could really beat the Pacers. I mean, there are like thousands of them, man. And they walk on every yard, okay? Because they don't really have a problem with nobody. That would be the crew to join if you're Mexican, because you got much more of a chance to do your own thing, actually. These other crews are very regimented. Yeah, I usually don't, people say, oh, he recounted, he said, didn't say names, then he said a name. A lot of times I'll change names and dates and places up. Why not? Because it protects the innocent and it respects people's privacy. But occasionally I do drop names, man. I only drop names to actually establish that I was actually in these places, like to describe things where the Odinist fire pit was, where the Native American sweat lodge was, because those things are always different in every USP, even though they're relatively designed somewhat the same. There's certain things that are always in different places. So, I can design the intimate details of how these jails was laid out and stuff. So I was actually here. I was in Victorville when Bobby was there. Okay. If you run in certain crews and organizations, you know who Bobby is. You probably heard the name. So yeah, I was there with him. I walked the yard with him. I mean, he wasn't my best friend, but he was there, and I was around all them dudes. You know what I mean? So I walked the yard with Mike Woods. I walked the yard with Jake Lasky. I walked the yard with Little Richie, Big Richie from the NLR. I walked the yard with Huff from the brand, who removed Snow's head. I was there with all these people, and I could describe intimate details of all these jails. So the difference between me and a lot of these creators on YouTube is I've never been in a gang in my life. See, you're right. Let's say that you're in a cell. Somebody made a video, and I don't need to reference the guy, and this is not like a direct rebuke to him. It's just a generalization to put things in proper context. If you join up for an organization and you decide you want to be a leader of that organization, and one of your big homies sends you a knife on a kite with a kite around to your cell, okay, and tells you to do something to your cellie, well, you signed up for that because you're in that organization. All right. You knew when you got in that organization, something like that could be asked of you. And by signing up for the organization, you were basically required to do it. See, I'm not in no gang. I'm an independent. It wasn't because I couldn't have got into one or two or who knows how, whatever, but I'm not a gang member. I ride with my homies. Now, what homies did I ride with? The New York homies. And I tell you why. Because New York City was my base of operations and my adopted hometown for 30 plus years. I know it's 30 or plus years. I lost count of the actual dates and all this other stuff, but I know it's decades, 3 or 3.5. I lived there and I did 14 years in their state prison system. I never did any significant time in South Carolina, other than juvenile hall, which was 3 years. But other than that, never any significant time. I might have got arrested one or two times for like public drunkenness or something, smoking a joint, or something, but nothing significant. So when I fell into Fizz, it was just much. I gravitated towards the New York dudes. One, I felt comfortable with them, and two, I liked their style, and because their style is about let's try to live good and make money, and if there's any way to keep the peace where we don't have to lose face, let's go that route and keep making money and keep living good. A lot of organizations, especially in my opinion, out west organizations, they oftentimes cut their nose off to spite their face. Um, and that, I mean, that's my take. I know, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. That's just the way I see it. Other people can see it different. Um, with that said, don't get it twisted. We ain't afraid. We ain't afraid to do whatever needs to be done if it needs to be done. I also had a unique attribute that most people didn't possess. I'm born and raised up in the dirty South, South Kakalaki, Laki. So I can go over here and talk to the outlaw redneck homies too, right? And so that really helped bridge a huge gap. Okay, I'm really good with the law. So that was what I did, was run tickets, make money, and try to improve really my life, number one. And number two, anybody that's life around me that I choose to deal with. That was the way I did my time. Yeah, I did a lot of time in the shoe because in those places, like I said, trouble can find you. But see, I never signed up for an organization that has constitution and bylaws and all this stuff. I've never been in a gang any day, not one day of my life. Now, let me clarify this. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. Let's say you're a white guy from any given state, USA, and you land in the United States Penitentiary. This is what's going to happen as soon as you get there, okay? Couple ways it can play out. What's up, Wood? Where you from? That's probably going to be the first thing that is asked, okay? Because, see, that lets these people know who know you just got to this jail, know where to direct you so you can go holler at your people, all right? I don't need to know your name and all that stuff first thing. Yo, Wood, what's up, man? Where you from? That way I can say, hey, man, your people's over there. My name is Mick. Boom, boom, boom. Your people's over there. You can go holler at your people. And everybody on this compound understands. Nobody stays on this compound unless their paperwork's clean. We do not allow, because it's not like we want to be some motherfucking gatekeepers or something. It's just that, look, everybody here is playing at such a high level and the stakes are so high. Everybody is expected to regulate their own car, their own homeboys, check their paperwork and make sure they check out. We respect you as men because we know you're straight shooters, and we have confidence that you'll vet this process out and make sure your homie is good to stay here. And then we might get to know him and talk to him a little bit after that. Because if he's not right, we're just going to end this right. And if you do not do it, let's say in any given state, the white dudes, they may be 2 or 3 dudes from your state, or it could be 30 or 40. It just really depends on what federal prison you're in and, how hard the feds are going to prosecute people in whatever state you're from. So that's just going to have a lot to do with it. And if you fail to do that and you allow bad people to walk around on this compound unregulated by you, what we'll have to do is just run all of you off, okay? That's the way to have to plead, because everybody around here is going so hard and trying to politic on every little thing. You got to run a real tight car. And this is not me saying I dictate this, Mick dictate this way. This is the way it is designed. It's the way it runs, and it's the way it is. Now, when you run with your homies, what does that really mean? I mean, okay, so you got your official white gangs. I mean, you have a significant number. I would say probably right now, you have probably 6 to 8 white gangs in federal penitentiaries that are operating at significant numbers. Now, we can talk about the brand. The brand is, obviously, everybody knows who that is, the original AB out of California. They're a very powerful organization. They have a lot of power in the feds, primarily with the dudes from California, and there is quite a few number of white dudes out of the state of California at the federal penitentiary level. Okay, so they have many homeboys that respect your program as well to ride for your program. But the difference is, if you're in California, the brand's at the top of the food chain. When you're in the feds, the brand is, is playing a pretty decent position, but it's not really in the same position that it would be in the state of California. It's in a where power sharing is a little bit more, linear, vertical, whatever it is. You know what I mean? But horizontal, whatever, man. But so it's not the same politics because people could get bucked on in there. And it's happened before, and I'm sure it'll happen again, and you'll probably never even hear of it. But outside of those official white gangs, every white man in the federal penitentiary is not required to join no organization. He can just be vetted by his homies, run with what the politics are. And what are the politics? What are you expected to do in a United States penitentiary as a white man who is doing the prison sentence at that level? Okay, this is the actual politics that everybody's going to live by, not just me, not just you, any white guys that's in good standing. Okay, you're going to sell with your own race. Okay, anything other than that is like sacrilege. I didn't make that rule up. That's just the way it is for any number of political different reasons. Okay, you eat with your own race. That doesn't mean you can't say what's up to a black dude or what's up to a Mexican brother, whatever, man. But but it doesn't. It's just like all these racial lines exist, man, and it exists for a legitimate reason, because it helps keep the peace. That's probably the reason why all this stuff formed up. Now, the blacks, that is a mixed bump. I've been around West Coast blacks, Northeast blacks, Chicago blacks, and Southern blacks, and we live in a huge country. So if you think about the country of Europe, is Italy like Norway? Nah, man. You know what I mean? It's not. California is not like Alabama. They're two different. They're both states, but it's like completely different flows, and that's just the way it is. So, in my experience, the West Coast blacks actually run a real tight program. Whatever, they got their own thing going on, but for example, let's start with the Southeast black. Let me give you a good example. You know, I say this because it's true. The Southeast blacks in the federal system, period, but especially at the penitentiary level, starting at D.C., running all the way down the Southeast, over into Texas, all those southern states. Something's in the water down there, and they constantly masturbate. Not every single one of them, that could be a blanket statement, but they constantly masturbate to fully clothed women. They can't keep their pecker out of their hand. In their cells, I ain't saying it out in a day room, but when they see women walking by, it's called gunning them down. That's the reason why with this dude Gunners TV Collective, I don't know if he probably, I don't know, but that's what they call them, gunners. There's something in the water, man. I don't know what the hell they got going on down there. I'm from the South. I don't get it. But they all, not everyone, no. But I'd say out of 100, 60% of them condone it. They all do it. And like the woman is fully clothed from head to toe. Some of them even wear a smock to try to prevent it, and it still happens, man. I've never seen anything like it. So that is a fact. Anybody who's ever been in the feds, you know what I'm saying is the truth. And now the West Coast blacks, they're not down with that shit. It's not a thing out there in their culture. They just don't do this shit. I ain't gonna say never. None of them's never did it, but it's just not a thing for them. It's not a thing from the blacks out of Chicago. They don't do that. I mean, out of the North, the North Midwest, they don't do that shit. The Northeast blacks definitely don't do that as a cultural thing. It ain't cool. I'm not gonna say nobody's never did it, but it's not a thing. But when you get into what they call the Dirty South, they call it the Dirty South for a reason. I never seen anything like it. All of us masturbating, man, in their cell behind closed door, but the woman can see them, and they can see the woman walking around doing rounds and stuff. It's almost like, I don't even know what to call it, man. It was fucking wild. You can't see them, but they'll be standing at their door and looking out their window. Who knows what they're doing? But they quite often catch shots for what they call an incident report for that. I'll leave it at that. So, that's the basic breakdown. And when you get in there, you're gonna be able to call yourself independent, which is what I was. But I still have people that I answer to and people that answer to me. It's not all about me. It's not all about them. We all have to keep each other in check. But you're right. I never signed up though for just say, hey, homie, if you need me, to get a weapon and go do your dirty dealing for you, even though I don't know this dude. I'm not obligated to do that for anybody. I never signed up for that. That's the reason why I made it out after 10 years, 9+ years, and was able to rebuild my life. So I had a different approach to things, and I never signed up for that. Now, what you will be expected to do if you're white, you have to put, if you want to be in any kind of good standing at all, you have to put some work in. What that means is, let's say I'm riding with New York. I get there, I go over to the New York dudes, I introduce myself. We go in a cell, we talk, where you come from, boom, 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 and they feeling me, and I check out. Okay, as soon as my property gets here, I got my paperwork. Okay, as soon as your property gets there, don't unpack a whole bunch of stuff. Get your paperwork. The dudes are in the black. Go right over there to the table. But hey, man, it's my paperwork right here. Y'all, any of y'all can read that. It's not top secret. You know what I'm saying? And put that out there right off the bat. Okay, so they know who you are. You check out. But then you just go shake hands, whatever you're going to do. Be like, yeah, I'll be back. I'm going to go up here to the cell, get my stuff organized, and let them read through the paperwork. If it's legit, you got nothing to worry about. Okay? Let them read through the paperwork, do their thinking, let them talk it out amongst themselves. That's first number one. And then after they say, okay, cool, we feel you home, where you from, blah, 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 I'm doing a little deeper dive on you, you check out. Um, then what's going to happen is, best thing you can do is before you even go to commissary, really even before you get the property, maybe even the first thing you do is, well, it's going to be hard to do that. Anyway, let's get back on track. Show them your paperwork. Let them talk it out out there in the day room. It's the wildest thing you ever said. The United States Penitentiary got a day room. It's just full of chaos and mayhem all the time. Anyway, let them talk that out. Go back up here and get your stuff. And when the next opportunity presents itself, y'all get to talking. Okay, everything's cool. Be like, oh, yo, homeboy, I get no problem putting myself on deck right now. Okay, uh, I'll get the next dude who comes in bad, who ain't got good paperwork or something. I'll go handle that. Y'all pick somebody to send with me. But here's the deal, homeboy. I'm not trying to catch a body up in here unless my life is in danger. Now, if somebody comes in, their paperwork's bad or whatever, I got no problem going with somebody else and get them going. But I didn't sign up to catch no body for nobody up in here. So you know, now, with that said, I'll put a piece of steel and my life is in danger. But I'm not your missile, But I'll put work in. I'll put myself on deck right now. Then the next guy that comes in here who ain't right, everybody decides got to go. I'll step up and give somebody else to go with me. And we go beat this dude off the yard, which I'm required to do that because, that's what I got to do because you're from New York and I'm rolling with New York and you ain't right and I just got here. So you got to prove you're like, okay, worth keeping around. But not only is his paperwork good, he's useful, okay? He ain't ducking wreck, and that matters a lot. And if you just go put hands and feet on it, they put you in the hole for about a week or two, and the homies will come and speak up for you, they let you right back out. The dude who got jumped on, he might be back there 3 to 6 months or so waiting to get transferred to another spot where it's just going to happen to him again if he messes with your own people over here. That's kind of what it is. So that's what I would recommend you do. Just go ahead on and just get to it. You ain't got to be no killer. And that's another thing. When you're in a room and things are being talked about, the last thing you want to do, unless you want to put yourself at center stage, is even speak. You're in the room. That doesn't mean you got to be the first one to speak, the mid one to speak, the last one to speak, or even speak unless it's necessary. Okay? Because see, once you speak about something, that means you're willing to do something about it. Why'd you speak about it if you're not about the business? You can just remain silent. You just spoke about it. Okay, so that's been my experience. The greatest weapon a man, or any person for that matter, actually has is your mind. Okay? Um, sometimes I get dates and this type of stuff mixed up, maybe because I'm talking fast and I only got so much storage space. I need to delete some stuff that's probably cluttered up and baggage as well. I can upload some fresh new stuff. But anyway, I digress. This is a basic overview, of what you would really have to look forward to. And you're going to get in trouble. You can do some time. You're going to go in the hole. All this is going to happen to the United States Penitentiary. It's basically unavoidable. Now, you don't have to be the guy who's looking to join some notorious gang who's looking to put work in for that gang. Now, if you sign up for that, yeah, you on the hook for that. But I didn't sign up for that. That didn't mean I didn't know a lot of those dudes. That didn't mean I didn't like a lot of them dudes on a personal level, and I would probably have backed their play as a friend. But they was not in a position to give me no order, okay? Because I'm not in your gang. I roll with the New York car. I'm from the East Coast, homie. You know what I'm saying? So that was my approach to the whole thing. So I hope I answered some questions there. And not one statement that I make that I intend for it to be derogatory or disrespectful. I could have did a whole much more deeper dive in all kind of different racial politics. What happened, when it happened, why it happened. You know what, man? I just don't do that, man, because I try to like not get too deep in stuff that ain't necessarily my business, or I don't mind everybody else in the whole world knowing, because we're on social media. Anybody who sees this can, um, you know, look at it and have an opinion about it. So that's just the way it plays out. In any event, I don't want to talk your ear off no more today. I don't know if it's going to rain or not. It may. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you keep check this channel out, because me and my wife take a trip down to the Florida Keys, and when we get down there, I'm going to do some kind of like gnarly prison story. I think the next prison story I'm going to do is one time I've had a job on Rikers Island many times, running the whole jail. Not running the whole jail, but I mean running the hallways of the jail and doing wheels and deals and all kind of stuff, man. So I have vast experiences on Rikers Island. I can talk extensively about that. Maybe I'll start doing a series about that. Then I got to go back and finish a series on Jackie, one of the most rawest prisoners ever met. So until next time, stay up. Peace.